Come on in, grab a seat. Actually, pull it right up close to the fire. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something, well, a little bit different. We're going to completely deconstruct the mechanics of fear. We'll be looking at the exact anatomy of the perfect scary story and digging into exactly what makes a campfire tale live on forever in our collective nightmares. You reach for the light switch, but another hand is already there. Just let that sink in for a second. Two simple sentences, but they prove, without a doubt, exactly how quickly fear can grip us before we even begin our analysis. It's instant, right? It's completely visceral, and it's entirely based on instantly subverting your sense of safety.
Section 1. Gathering around the fire. Why we tell ghost stories.
Section 2. Planting the seed of truth. So you gotta wonder, why do we voluntarily terrify each other? Well, according to professional storyteller Adam Booth, this age-old tradition actually serves a pretty crucial evolutionary purpose. We're essentially practicing fear in a safe space. By experiencing these spooky things in the presence of someone we trust, we're psychologically preparing ourselves for real-world uncertainty. And you know what's really fascinating? While the medium totally shifts over the generations, the psychological trigger remains exactly the same. Like 50 years ago, kids terrified each other with classic folklore about escaped convicts hiding out in the woods. Today, it's internet creepypastas unfolding on obscure message boards. Take the famous story Candle Cove, where users casually reminisce about this bizarre, fuzzy 1970s children's television show, only to slowly realize they were all sharing the exact same hallucination. The format changes, sure, but that terrifying realism, the idea that, hey, this could happen to you, that is the constant. But for that practice to actually work, the fear has to feel real. I want you to just take a second and imagine the dark, winding roads in your own hometown, or maybe that one abandoned house everyone told rumors about when you were a kid. A story only works if the listener can literally picture themselves standing right in the middle of it. Classic stories absolutely weaponize this sense of safety. Take The Hook, for example. It turns a completely everyday, relatable location, a couple sitting in a parked car on a dark night just listening to the radio, into a terrifying trap. It takes this incredibly mundane scenario that you've probably been in yourself and injects just a single lethal anomaly, an escaped patient with a hook for a hand. So how do you actually construct this kind of terror? Well, storytelling experts from the Sierra Club have laid out this fascinating checklist for crafting fear. First up, you have to do your homework. You absolutely need to know your local history. Second, you gotta set the tone quickly. Expert storyteller Lepeka Kapanui actually notes that if you use specific dates and real street names, like, say, Smith Street in Waikiki, your audience immediately thinks, wait, I drive by there every single day. You hook them with hard facts. And third, you must establish a pattern of events. A one-off jump scare is, well, it's kind of cheap, but a pattern? A pattern is deeply unnerving. I absolutely love this analogy from Per Sjögren. He's a Swedish lighthouse guide and historian, and he compares a good ghost story to a Christmas tree. Think about it. The hard facts, the dates, the real historical geography, that forms the sturdy trunk and the branches, right? And once you have that credible base that your audience completely trusts, well, then you can start hanging the spooky embellishments, the local lore, the strange shadows, all the little decorations of fear. Section 3. The slow build of dread. Now, this is where most people get it totally wrong. If you just rush straight to the bloody hook or the ghost jumping out of the closet, you ruin the whole thing. True dread requires an agonizing amount of patience. You have to lower your voice and escalate the pattern so incredibly slowly that they don't even realize they're trapped until it's way too late. Remember, repetition breeds terror. Let's look at the famous internet story No End House. The premise is super simple. Make it through 9 rooms of a haunted house and you win $500. But the story works so well because of this excruciatingly slow escalation. The first few rooms are almost childishly typical. But as the narrator progresses, the house constantly changes the rules, pushing from cheap visual scares into surreal, deeply personal psychological horror. It's that repetition of entering a new room, expecting one thing, and getting something fundamentally worse. That is what breaks the mind. Section 4. The power of silence. The most obvious mark of a novice storyteller is rushing the delivery. They just want to keep talking to fill the void. But the real magic, it doesn't happen when you speak. It happens when you stop, when you let the story just live in the terrible, agonizing silence of your audience's imagination. Even Mark Twain knew this. During his 1884 reading tour, he became super famous for telling this folktale called The Golden Arm, which is all about a ghost returning to reclaim its stolen limb. Twain actually instructed that the pause right before the climax was the absolute most important thing in the whole story. He wrote that if you get the length precisely right, you prime the audience's imagination so effectively that they will literally jump right out of their seats. Think about your physical environment right now. Like, really think about it. How long can you comfortably hold eye contact with a stranger? Maybe 3 seconds? 5? Now, imagine someone holding it just a second too long while telling you a really dark truth. That's exactly what master storytellers do. They use the flickering shadows of the campfire to tilt their faces into these unnatural, eerie shapes. They deliberately pause to let the distant howl of a dog or that swarming hum of summer cicadas bleed right into the narrative. They literally make the real world part of the nightmare. Section 5. The Lingering Nightmare. So how do you leave your audience thoroughly haunted long after the fire has burned down to embers? The crucial starting point is understanding this classic technique known as the jump tail. This is where you lower your voice to a near whisper, drawing everyone physically closer and closer to you, and then you hit them with a sudden shout. It's this fantastic adrenaline-pumping release. But while that fort de seal moment is undeniably fun, we need to quickly pivot to an even more insidious, psychological way to end a story. Because, as podcast scout Ann Ford puts it, the most chilling tales never truly resolve. They leave you with this deeply unsettling feeling of, okay, we've vanquished the creature, but it laid eggs. Take this famously terrifying Reddit account from a backcountry camper. He wakes up in his tent to the distinct double-shutter flash of a camera going off in the pitch black outside. And for 2.5 hours, these flashes slowly circled his tent, getting closer and brighter. But here's the thing. He never heard a single footstep. Not one. The final flash happened literally inches from his tent zipper. And the story ends without us ever knowing what on earth was holding that camera. The threat just remains totally unresolved. It lingers. And honestly, that is the true anatomy of a scare. It's really not about the monster you defeat at the end of the day. It's about the uncertainty that you carry home with you. So I'm going to leave you with this. When you turn off this explainer and your room goes completely quiet, what will be waiting for you in the dark?